right, everyone. Welcome to the mini convo pod show for your Thursday edition. So, as we had announced before, we are going to be talking about love and dating in the digital age. What does that mean? That means literally not just in the situation where we are in terms of dealing with COVID-19, but just love in general and dating, whether it be online dating or in-person dating or whatever the case may be in a digital age where the majority of the interaction tends to be with our smartphones or with our computers. And so we just did, before all of this went completely left, our guest and I did a full combo pod show about 2 weeks ago, and it was fantastic. We again, that was the main topic, but we also talked about how we would be able to deal with um, dating situations just in general, healthy relationships in general, matchmaking in general, especially how it relates to our communities of color, and some of even the stigma that's attached to matchmaking, even though it's a time honored tradition. So, our guest was Julie Wadley, and her story is absolutely phenomenal. You're going to have to tune into the full episode, which will air next Wednesday at 8 o'clock. And at that time, we talked about her journey, her personal journey, her own journey of self acceptance, her journey in the areas of love and family and relationships, and how she became a matchmaker and how she became involved in working with people as a coach and all of that. And she has a podcast that's called While We Wait, and it deals with issues of relationships and things that one can do while they're in the process of that relationship coming to fruition. So this is going to be a real talk combo. I mean, all of the conversations are real talk, but listen, we are stuck in the house as singles. For those of you who are single, raise your hand, put a heart up there so we see you. But this is hard. This is hard. This is a difficult time if you are out here in the situation where you are single. You cannot date in a traditional way. You cannot meet in a traditional way. You cannot have interaction in a traditional way. And I think it has its benefits, but it's also difficult in this time, especially while you're navigating as a single person. Now, those of you who are not in relationships, especially if you're living with someone, I imagine that's probably interesting right about now too. So y'all gonna need to check in and let us know as we're talking. Like, how are you doing? Seeing the same person all day, every day, and having your kids with you all day, every day, because it's a little different when you're on the single side. So, our guest is Julie Wadley. Y'all say, hey, Julie. Hey, girl.
Hey, I'm
And
here.
yeah, so I'm going to have you tell a little bit about yourself in just a second. But as I said before, and she was our most recent guest on the conversation, and we were talking about love and relationships. And the thing that I thought was most compelling, Julie, was how you got to the point of even becoming a matchmaker, how
hmm
you got to the point of making the decision that that's where you wanted to go as far as dealing with, helping people find love themselves. So
hmm
your company is called Eli Simone.
Yes.
Shameless plug. I'll go ahead and put that out there. And it's named after your kids, Eli
Yes.
and Simone. So when did
Yes.
Eli Simone start, and how did you get to the point of deciding that this is something that you wanted to do? While I
Yes.
sip my wine.
So it started in 2013 and it was born out of a conversation that I had with my sister at the time. And, at this point, we were both kind of working in corporate America. We've been doing things, the traditional way for ever. And we just weren't happy. Both of us are kind of the mind that we don't like being stuck in a cubicle. So I said, all right, you tell me what I'm good at, I'll tell you what you're good at, and then we'll both kind of figure out what career or what business to start that aligns with that. So she's like, you're really good with relationships, you're always giving really good advice, so I think you should do something in that space. And I was like, okay, I was just going to go and do the whole traditional therapist or counselor. And she's like, that wasn't what I wanted you to get out of that conversation.
Right.
um, I really want you to do something different, like be a coach, be a matchmaker. There's not many of us there. And so at first I was like, I just played it off like, okay, that's cute. But as I was doing research and realized that one, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And two,
Billion with a B. Let's be
billion.
clear. Right.
Let's be clear. But also, we're not represented in there. We aren't represented when it comes to helping people with helping our communities with relationships. You'll see, the big conglomerates, the big dating sites, and some of the big matchmaking firms. They all focus on the majority. And so I said, you know what? There is a market out there for people who look like me, who want to, be in a committed relationship. So that's why I started my business.
And fun fact, I was one of your first clients.
Yes. I don't tell people that.
Well, I
Let's
have.
be clear. Let's be clear. I don't tell people who I work with. And so when people say, "Well, who have you worked with?" I'm like, I couldn't tell you. I'm sorry. You just gonna have to trust me. And so when you said, "Well," I was like, "Oh, she said it. Okay, we can talk about it."
So
Yeah.
in all, and we talk about this in a little bit more depth on the episode that's going to air. But what was so interesting, because we met in 14 when I was in the throes of becoming running for judge, and I had this thing that, you know what, I really want to try this. And I think because a lot of it was the stigma that I knew of
Yeah.
trying to run for political office as a woman, as a Black woman, and as a single Black woman. So I just knew that, I can do this. I can manage a relationship. I can do all of these things. And yet,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah. You know, we tried it. We I think I had you go out on a couple dates, and we quickly realized. She's like, I ain't got time. She's like, Julie, I don't got time for this. I was like, okay, you're right. And that was the fear, right? Like that's what we had talked about is you are running for an elected office. You're running from here to there. You're shaking hands, kissing babies, and all that. And so, are you really going to have the space to be present and in the moment with someone? And you're just like, yeah, I could do it. I got it. Good. And experiences is like, nah, sit down.
Right.
Sit down.
And so I think one of the things I think that's particularly important, I want you to speak on this a little bit. Like, for me, that was what, 6 years ago. And fast forward now, we're in the era where online dating has really become sort of a staple in many ways. And then you're seeing more people that are taking the matchmaking route. So when did you start to see the big uptick with your business? And what would you say to someone who's considering going that route as far as matchmaking? Like, what do they need to be able to consider from the beginning if this is going to be something for them?
So I think for my business, I got an uptick when I had sort of proven myself. I'd been in the business for a couple years. I've had a couple clients, and I had some success. I think this is an industry where our people, our community, don't really. This isn't our thing.
Right.
This isn't our lane. So they're very skeptical. They're kind of like, okay, are you trying to sell me a pipe dream? Are you hustling me? You want to take my money so I can date people. Like there's a lot of skepticism when it comes to this business, especially with our community. And let's face it, we don't like to show our cards. We don't like to be, we don't like to show our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities. And this is a very private, very vulnerable type of industry where you have to put all your cards out on the table, and that's not something that we're comfortable doing. With any type of self-development, personal development type of industry or type of role, it's very difficult for our community to embrace that. So it took a while, for people to say, okay, I've heard of you before. There was that social proof that I had to get over. So once I had that social proof, and once I had some years under my belt, I think people were just like, okay, I've either heard of you, I've seen you out, I've seen you on television, I've seen you on radio. I think you're legit now. So let me show you, now you can help me. In terms of people wanting to do or be a part of this type of or use this type of service, you really have to be honest with yourself. This isn't like I want a husband or I want a wife, so I'm just gonna get a matchmaker or get a coach, and all of a sudden they're going to give me what I want. This isn't buying a pair of shoes. It's not buying a car, right?
Right.
There's a lot that goes into this, and a lot of it has to do with you. Most of the time, we are our own worst enemy. So it takes a lot of honesty and self-reflection and self-critiquing to say, okay, am I the one that's the problem here? Is it me that's in my own way? And sometimes me holding up that mirror can be very daunting. So as long as you're ready enough for that, and you're you're accepting of some critique and some improvement, then we can work together.
So what would you tell somebody who's been single for a long time? Because I
Mm,
mean, even in conversations with friends and associates who've been single for years and have said, okay, this this may be my lot in life, or
yeah.
just going through that cycle of the whole meeting somebody and then of course it fizzles out. What would you tell somebody, male or female, who's been single for a long time, how to start to navigate it in this space
Yeah.
where we can't just go out on dates? We just can't meet for a drink. You know, you might be able to meet at a park 6 feet away. Probably wouldn't even suggest that at this point because that Rona is real. Let's just
Well,
put
yeah.
that out there.
Yeah.
But you know, all jokes aside, though, I mean, but it is hard because you're lacking that social interaction, and we're on
Yeah.
our phones. Like everybody's on their phones.
Yeah.
Everybody's scrolling through and paying attention to posts, and everybody's going live, and everybody's doing all that. So, what would you tell somebody navigating this in that space, but someone who's been single for a long time?
So you in the space, you mean coronavirus with our social, like, sheltering in place?
Well, coronavirus, yeah, but just in general, in terms of getting back out there and
Yeah.
being
So
willing.
it is very tough to get over being a bit jaded, right?
Right.
People who've been single for a long time, who've wanted to be in a relationship for a long time, and it has not happened for them. They start to have this battle with themselves, like, I want it, but I don't think it's realistic for me. I really want to be in a relationship, but I don't think it's in the cards for me. So I think we self-sabotage. We tend to say it's not going to happen. And honestly, perception is reality. So as long as you keep that idea that it's not going to happen for you, it is not going to happen for you. So you have
Mm,
to keep that positive attitude, like, okay, it hasn't happened for me yet. Right? You have to develop that mindset that it hasn't happened for me yet, but it will. And as long as you believe that, how you show up in places where you are able to meet people, they will see that. Like, I think for women specifically, I think men can smell, just like sharks with blood. They can smell when a woman is trying too hard, or she's, trying to make something happen, and that almost is
mm.
it's counterproductive, because they're just like, oh, she's thirsty, oh, she's desperate, and that smells.
Is
They
that
don't.
true, guys? I need y'all to comment. Is that true? Do y'all smell desperation? I mean, really, like, can you sense that? Can you smell that? Is that true? Let me comment on that while she
Yeah.
continues. 'Cause I'm curious to see what the men are saying about that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sis. Go.
So, and it's not always going to be first 5 seconds, that you can see that. But a woman who is, who wants to jump in way too fast. She's like, okay, we've been on a date for like 2 dates. Now I want your phone number. I want your mama's number. I want to be over there. You want to be everywhere and do everything. You want to, fast track the relationship part, and you can't. That's something that you cannot speed up. That getting to know you stage, that connection stage, that intimacy stage, all of that's needed to build a solid relationship, that takes time. And that's time that you can't you can't navigate. You can't negotiate that. So I think women, when they just want something to happen so fast, they want to fast track it. And men are like, whoa, pause. I don't care if you're 45. I don't care if you want to have kids. You're not going to bully me into being in a relationship that I'm not ready for. So sometimes women are like, okay, well, he's not on the same page as I am, so let me just quit it. And that's fair, but you have to realize that men don't have to be on your timeline. They're on their own timeline. And when they find someone who they connect with, that they want to be in an intimate, deep relationship with, and they are ready, that's when they're going to make their move, and not a second before that. So I think women have to be okay with the time it's going to take to develop something, rather than on some type of time clock that no one else is aware of.
Mm. And so, devil's advocate, same is
Mm-hmm.
true for men. I don't know if they ask for the mama's number. I don't think they necessarily
Well,
do that,
listen,
but
they're
they
like,
make it very clear, mine, like a little kid, like mine, like call me now. Oh my God, I got to talk to you right now. So it does happen. And
yeah.
unfortunately, that perspective or even that feeling, for some women that, that makes them feel good about themselves. Oh, he's a protector or he's a provider, or unfortunately can go to the other extreme where it's narcissistic
Yeah.
behavior or possessive behavior, which isn't healthy either. So, all
Right.
right, so let's get to the goods. Oh, wait, let's go back for a second. So,
Yep.
not only do you do matchmaking, you also do through your podcast and through your own
Yep.
work with people to get themselves at a space of readiness while they're waiting.
Mhm.
So, tell us
Yep.
about the podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast is called While We Wait, and it's really for women who want to live their best selves in the meantime. That's sort of like my tagline. And the reason why I brought that up is I want women to stay ready so they don't have to get ready, right?
Hmm.
You have to figure your own ish out. You have
Hmm.
to be
You can cuss. It's
um,
okay.
okay. You got to figure your own shit out. All right,
Okay.
like
All right.
figure your own shit out. All
I'll
right.
drink to
So
that. Mm.
the baggage that you have from other relationships, or you're in a place or in a circumstance where you want someone to save you, or you've gotten to the point where you're settling for men who don't give you what you want, or you're conforming to whatever the man wants in order to be in a relationship. None of those options are healthy. And so my podcast is to kind of pick different pieces of our lives and say, how do we get to a place where we are ready, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, all that to say, when I do come across someone who I want to have a deep connection with, or I can see myself with, I don't have to go through all this rigmarole to figure out my ish, right?
Hmm.
So it's really just about bringing two lives together rather than all the baggage that came with, your ish.
And so, do you work with male clients too?
I do. I do. I don't work with them as much, but I do work with some men because some men, even though they don't really like to say it, some men need coaching too. Some men need to kind of understand women because they have one view of how all women operate. They think all women are one way, or all women are a certain way, or they've had really bad experiences, either with their in their childhood, or in a past relationship where they're just like very jaded, very bitter, and taking it out on other women. So I'm like, pause.
Right.
You say you want to be in a relationship, but do you actually like women? Like, do you respect women? Do you think of them as partners and not as a trophy, or as some sort of way to subjugate some insecurity that you have?
Hmm.
So I do work with men too, but again, they don't like to put their cards out on the table. So for those that do, I really applaud them for stepping
So,
up.
for sure. And so, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. We can see them over here on the side so that Julie can answer your questions. We're talking about love and dating in the digital age, and specifically in where we are in this era of staying at home and being isolated in some ways. Whether whatever that looks
Yeah.
like for you. But I think it's important, especially now, if we are single, how we are navigating that safely, how we navigating that so we don't make those mistakes. Like, just because we miss
Yeah.
companionship, or we miss that, companionship, that we start to get involved with someone online that may not be healthy, or whatever the case may be, or you just go through shenanigans. Just shenanigans. So drop a heart in the comments if you are like the rest of us, because I'm gonna just tell it. My take on online dating. If you've been online, you don't have to say which one, but if you tried an online dating site, drop a heart, because we need to talk about this here, people.
Yeah.
Because it's
The
serious.
thing is, every site is different, right? So every just there are the big ones like the match.coms, and then you have like the niches, right? So you have the league, you have
The who?
farmers, the league.
Oh, that's I never
It's
heard of
for
that one.
Yeah, so the league, I don't know, shout out to anybody who's ever used that, but the league is basically a dating site for people who, went to the Harvards, they went to the Stanfords, they have, the one percenters, let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very exclusive site to get onto. And so the whole idea is I want to marry someone who has my lifestyle or who's, kind of grown up in the same way as I did, or, I'm a millionaire, so I want to date another millionaire. So, it's a very niche type thing. So, it's every one of those sites has their own different brand and their own different way of working. So you just need to marry what you want out of it to the site that's going to produce that.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that as it has evolved over the years, that it makes dating more or less convoluted? What do you think?
That's a very interesting question, because I think just social media in general makes connection more difficult.
Right.
We tend to live on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our conversations are shorter. Our attention spans are shorter. What we, you can't really understand someone's tone on a text, right?
Right.
You put your own tone to what you think they're saying on what they're saying, and so you have it's the quantity and the access is more, but the connection is actually minimized because everything is so quick. You never have time to digest it.
Mm-hmm.
So before we're moving on to the next thing, so it's more difficult, I would say.
So, okay, so nobody's gonna fess up to having been on a dating site, but hell, I will. Oh, by the
Listen,
way,
let me
hey
say
Vicky,
something.
hey
If
Reese, hey Devin,
everyone
hey Ron, we see y'all. Okay, so nobody's gonna fess up other than me.
Yeah,
All right
I'm,
then.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that 99% of the people who are single have been on some site or has seen some site.
Girl, I go all the way to Black Planet. You don't even remember Black Planet? That
Oh
was
yeah,
dial up, sis.
we
You had to
remember Black Panther
pay.
now.
You had
That
to
good old.
pay.
Was that the 90s? Was that the 90s?
The 90s, yes, sis. When I was in law school, that was yeah, when you had to pay for the
Yeah,
internet. Like it was
yeah.
10 cents a
That
minute. It was
dial up.
not, you had to commit
That
to that
dial up.
dial-up tone. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. Over the years, it's been interesting because I think, from a personal perspective, the issues I had trying to date as a judge was very different than when I was a teacher. Like nobody judged me based
Yeah,
on, the fact that I was a teacher, but
yeah.
they absolutely did once they heard judge. Even
Hmm.
now, as an attorney, because there's a certain assumption of how you are, who you are, based on
Yeah,
what you do, and so something that you said, if I recall correctly, on the show is like, we get into this whole, we ask people immediately or within the first 2-3 minutes, hey, what do you do?
yep,
Not who you are.
yep.
And that's powerful because we stop asking about who a person is at their core and we
Yeah,
make snap decisions. Like everything is so microwave. What do
yeah,
you do? Do you have kids? Do you um have you been married before? How many times have you been married? Is that
yep,
your real age? Like
yep,
it's a problem. Trust
yep.
me, child.
Yeah. And I think people, they want to get to the chase, right? No one is interested in asking the real questions. What they're trying to do is ask questions to make assumptions, right? Again, trying to fast track things. Okay, what do you do? All right, if you are a white collar, professional, then okay, I'm already making assumptions on your lifestyle. I'm already making
Right.
assumptions on, your financial security. I'm already do you go to church? Okay, great. You go to church. I'm already making assumptions about your value set. I'm already making, like people ask these questions thinking that they're getting to the root answer, but they're really not.
True.
Because you have to experience someone to make sure that what they're saying lines in their behaviors and actions are. So, I think people dating is it's difficult because we're not asking the right questions. We're trying to get to the right answers, but we're asking the wrong questions.
And in our conversation, we talked about, or I said something about when I asked, like, who are you? Like, who are you at your core? And it was the slow blink. Like, wait, what?
Right.
Like crickets. You can hear the crickets. Like, wait, can you
Yep.
ask that again? Can you rephrase the question? Like Reese commented, she said her last 3 dates felt like an interview. And that's where we are now. Like,
Yeah.
how do we get past where it's just this, this,
Yeah.
this, 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 let's get through it
Yeah.
versus looking for chemistry. And I
Right.
think we've
Right.
all been, I think, if we're going to be completely honest, we have all done that. We've all, may have seen somebody that we're physically attracted to, and we go through the list of questions, the
Yep.
hopefully the things that we can get past.
Mhm.
But we don't ask even some of the tough questions. Hey, do you do drugs? Like, why do we not ask that question?
Yeah.
Have you ever hit a woman? Like, we don't ask
Mm.
those questions. Now, of course, that would make most men
Well, listen, let me tell
uncomfortable
you
and
something.
head for the
Nobody
hills.
is going to,
I haven't
but that's the
asked,
thing.
but
This is
right.
this is where this so this is where dating goes wrong, right? I think again, asking certain questions head on, you're going to get, first of all, when you're dating, like a dinner drinks type thing, most people's representative goes up,
Right.
right? They want to tell you what you want to hear. They are going to tell you what makes them look the best. So I never recommend the first couple dates being a side to side, or face to face type of sit down dinner type thing, because you don't know them enough to do that. It does become an interview if you have it that way, because you really can't experience someone just hearing them answer questions. What you should do is to actually develop experiences with them. And when I say that, I mean, take them out on an activity. Do something that's like slightly non-traditional, something that's slightly competitive, so you get to really see who this person is. Perfect example. You take someone to the exit room, you're gonna find out real quick,
And for those people who
who
don't
they
know, in
are.
the exit room, like, are they gonna freak out and fall out on the floor? Are they gonna lose
Yes.
their minds? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, take them, Halloween, like a haunted house type thing. You're going to
Sis, you,
find
you
out real
went too
quick.
far. Nah, sis, you went
Listen,
too
but let me
far.
tell you
Mm-mm.
something. You're
Mm-mm.
going to find out if a dude is going to throw you in front of the axe murderer, or he's going to protect you. You know what I mean? It's stuff like this where you want to take them out on an activity to see what they do, because when you're out on an activity, you don't have time to have your representative. It's really you.
Mm-hmm.
Your instincts come out when you're hiking, or when you're bowling, or when you're doing something like, something where it's slightly competitive. Like, you get to see the real person when you have an experience together. So my recommendation is, to your first couple dates, make sure that you are doing something so that you can really see how they act when they think you're not paying attention.
So, but in this age where we're in, I think the thing
Mm-hmm.
that, especially we're in the age of swiping, you're making decisions off of visual, what they say,
Yep.
that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Definitely
Yep.
have been in situations where I've come across fake profiles, people not
Yep.
being honest about their age, all of that. And for me personally, and I think this may be true for other people who have been on sites, is in some ways it definitely has its benefits, because you meet people you would never normally come across with. You don't run in the same social circles,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I know for me, I mean, the courthouse, the jail, or maybe at a school. What? That makes my options
Right.
like like this many,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like this many. So you make up for that with being out with your friends or being out and about, but then
Mm-hmm.
you're in that moment with your friends. You're not
Yeah.
going out to necessarily meet someone. So
But which you should be doing. Let's be
going out to
clear.
meet someone.
Yes,
Nah,
you should
I'm trying
absolutely.
to holler at my girls. We out in the corner kikiing. Now, if I go out by myself, that might be different because you're more
But
open.
here's
But
but here's the
I don't
gag.
know, Julie. I need a drink on that. Go
Listen,
ahead. Go
here's the
ahead.
gag. Here's the gag. Every opportunity is an opportunity to meet somebody. Okay?
True.
Don't put dating in one box. Like, oh, I'm only going to be looking when I'm dressed up, or when I have, when I'm going to a singles event, or when I'm alone. Every opportunity is an opportunity to meet someone, at the grocery store, at the gas station, at the post office, you with your girls, you at, work, whatever. You walking down the street. Every single opportunity that you have, that you are with or around people, is the opportunity to meet someone. So you with your girls, you find somebody that's cute, bye.
Oh, they know
I'm gonna
that.
catch y'all.
That's different. Oh, I do that all the time. That's different.
Okay,
But
okay, so
I'm
okay,
just
just making
saying,
sure. Just making sure.
right. I'll roll up on you in Lowe's. I'm just saying. Excuse me,
Oh,
sir.
excuse me, sir. Can
I
you hand me
tried
this
to
hammer
find
real
this
quick?
and
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
You doing the job. I don't
Right.
help me.
Lord have mercy. Hey, do it. Do
Shit.
it. You gotta
Anyway,
do it.
but no, in all seriousness, so having personally been on tried plenty of fish, y'all. I know
Mm-hmm.
I ain't the only one. Plenty of fish is where the stalkers are. You don't have any control over who reaches out to you, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
scary.
Mm-hmm.
A freakishly high number of really old people. For a while, the joke
Yeah.
amongst my girlfriends, like, why are you an old man magnet? I don't know, but like old men, like, don't understand that. We're
Well,
gonna get to the law of attraction in just a second.
so I
Don't
will
answer
say
that.
this.
Don't
Okay.
answer that. From like Tinder Schminder,
Mm-hmm.
that is what it is. Bumble, I like though. Bumble's
Mm-hmm.
interesting because obviously the woman
Yeah.
makes the first move if she chooses to make the first move. But even there, you find profiles that are not verified or that are fake, and you can pick
Yeah.
up on it pretty quick. Like if you
Yeah.
aren't willing to, video chat or something like that, or you get all angry because
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what you really look like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Google. And I think one of the better tips, especially if you're navigating online dating for the first time, use Google Photos. Oh my God,
Yeah. You'd be
outstanding. Drop
surprised.
that photo in and you'll find out if they pull that joint from somebody's Instagram or
You'd be
whatever the
surprised.
case may be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
there's so much of that out there. But do you believe in the laws of attraction?
I do. I
Okay.
do. I do. I think, what you put out, you get back tenfold. Um, and so if you out there looking just pitiful, mad at the world, disinterested, bored, you're gonna get that. If you put out desperate, you're gonna get men or women who are attracted to that. So whatever you put out is what you're gonna whatever's on your hook is
Hmm.
what you're gonna catch.
And so what advice can you give to somebody to even be mindful of that? Because you may think
Mhm.
that you're out giving out all kinds of delightful, but
Right.
then you're getting old men. Now I'm gonna let you answer that question to say, because Felicia, like, y'all better answer that. Answer.
Hey, Felicia. Hey,
Dang.
girl.
But
Hey, girl.
I don't know if I want to know the answer. I'm gonna hang up. I don't want
Okay,
to do
but
this no more.
let's talk about
I'm kidding. I'm
let's talk
kidding.
about the old man first. It is
Must
a
we?
fact. It is a fact that the older men get, the younger the woman must be.
Mm,
So men generally want or attracted to women who are 7 to 10 years their junior. So men who are in their late 50s, early 60s
cat
find
daddies.
you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go
Listen,
ahead.
now you know what though? I recently met a 60-year-old who was fly. Okay, fly. And he told me that he generally dates women in their late 30s, early 40s. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that because he has a young man's energy. Even though he is 65, he's well put together, well traveled, well dressed. And the assumption is women who are my age rarely can keep up with me. So I think a lot of men are like, I who isn't attracted to youth? Right? Who isn't attracted to women who still, who can still keep that joint
Right.
up?
It's laying
Women,
down, but in the right way.
right? They're like, right. You,
Right.
you know, you got the curves, you got the skin, you got the hair. Women of a certain age, they're still, the younger ones, they still kind of keep themselves together. And this is all assumption because I know some, and I promise you, Black women, we hold it down no matter what age, but for the most part, generally men are looking for women in their 7 to 10 years, they're junior, just because they just have this assumption. Again, they're trying to fast track by making assumptions about women by saying, I want a younger woman because I want her to keep up with me.
Hmm. But I think the same is true for women, because I have this weird, and you and I talked about this when you were trying to match me back then, is like, it's got to be the energy. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of women that are in their 40s, and I see some of y'all up there because I know it applies to you, you tend to attract younger. But
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, they may be immature, they may have not have the same maturity level, or they may
Yeah.
want, more kids, or whatever the case may be, and that ship has sailed.
Mhm.
Or it's older. It's hard to find somewhere in the middle,
Yeah,
that has all of those things that you're looking for, especially if you're giving off a more youthful energy.
right.
But then, you're getting cat daddy. I know I said cat daddy. Yes, I did.
So here's the
You're
thing.
getting
I
cat
think
daddies and youngins. It's like,
so.
right.
This is my recommendation for men and women. Don't focus on age. Right.
Okay.
Don't even ask about age. And I know that just like we can't help asking about what you do, you can't help by asking how old you are. You try to, say, okay, what type of music do you like? Or what's your favorite show? You trying to get an idea of what age they are. And we should stop focusing on that, because one, you are trying to apply some type of judgment on whatever characteristic he's providing you, when he might not even be that, right? So we're assuming that 55, 60-year-old men can't keep up, or they're too old. Or we're assuming men in their, let's say you're 40, you're dating someone, or someone who is in their 30s is attracted to you. You're just like, oh no, he's too young. What is that? Like, as long as they are giving you what you need and what you want, what does it matter?
True. True. And so I want to go back to what you said earlier, with the time we have left. It was a really cool idea as far as activities. Now, we
Mm-hmm.
can't go bowling. We can't do all of those things right now.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
there virtual activities that you can think of that would be an option at this time when we're not able to have the traditional social interaction?
Yeah, I mean, Facebook has created, there's a lot of different groups on Facebook. There's a lot of forums, not just on Facebook, but just forums in general, um, where there are people who enjoy the same things that you do. I
Hmm.
think that this is a good opportunity to start doing some research outside of the Facebooks and the Instagrams. Like, find some online forums where people who maybe you enjoy music, or you enjoy a specific type of music, or you're a sports fan, or you're, whatever you are, try to find your community, right? This is a really good time, because everybody's at home and everybody's online. So find your people online. That's what
I
you don't.
wouldn't. I'm
Go
sorry, I
ahead.
didn't mean to cut you off. So, but
Mhm.
okay, and I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, but it
Mhm.
might not be like words with friends may not be a good idea
Words
because
with friends.
yeah, like games or things that nature where the two of you all are competing in that type of an activity. Words
Well,
with friends is like a Scrabble. I don't know if that would be a good idea because, well,
I
you
do
would
think
find
it's a good
out, his
idea.
breadth of
Yes, I think that's a
word
great
choice.
idea. Yes,
I thought
that's
about
a
that,
great
but
idea.
some
I
things
mean,
that like games like that you can play
yeah,
virtually.
yeah,
Not like anything else, but games that you can play virtually so you can kind of
hmm,
get to know the person that way.
yeah, yeah,
Because we don't know how long it's going to be, and even when the worst is over, we're still going to be hesitant.
right,
As
right.
we're dealing with this. Um, I see a couple of comments that from women. We were talking about kind of in the same boat that I had discussed earlier about attracting younger, but dealing with the maturity issues of
Yeah,
someone younger. So
hmm,
if you're not asking how old a person is, and you're not asking those basic questions, how it's frustrating then. Like if you're
hmm,
attracting younger and you may be physically attracted to younger, but then there's that maturity issue. You can't stop
hmm.
being who you are, right?
Yeah,
So then
yeah.
how do you navigate that part if that's what you tend to attract? Because it would mean that you would fundamentally almost have to change something about yourself. And we obviously aren't going to do that, as well.
So I think I definitely want to ask, and I think Reese was the one who said that. I'd really want to ask in terms of what does that mean maturity wise? Meaning, they're silly and they don't take life seriously, or they're not interested in a committed relationship. Like, what does maturity mean? Because if you are attracting immature men, what does that say about you? And this
Hmm.
is no shade, right? If you are attracting men who are not serious, then there is something that you are putting out, you are showing up as, that is attracting people who are not serious, or people who are immature. So I would say, is there something about me that is attracting immature men? Now, if it's commitment, that is really the issue here, then that's something that everyone, I think all women at one time or another, have dealt with, meaning that you want to take it to the next step with someone, but they're not interested in going further. So that's a different question.
So, but what would you say to a woman who may be attracting that younger man just because of physically how she looks? Because we know
Yeah.
men are visual creatures, so that
Hmm.
attraction may be exclusively physical initially,
Yeah.
where he sees her and she obviously doesn't look like she's in her 40s or whatever the
Hmm.
age is, and
Hmm.
that may be part of the reason why she may be attracting him, and it may not have anything to do with the maturity issue until later. So
So I would say you can't really help who you attract, especially if let's say you're 40 years old, but you are incredibly attractive. You attract everyone from, Bill Gates to,
ew, I'm
I mean, you
sorry.
know what I mean? Like, you attract everybody, like you're universally attractive, right? So you can't really help that you attract younger men. But the thing is, it doesn't matter who you attract. What matters is who you entertain.
Right.
Right? So if you are entertaining immature men, then that's something that you need to correct. Don't entertain men that's not, or don't entertain men or women that is not who you are looking for, right? So you can attract men all day long, but who you decide to bring into your circle or to bring into your, you actually investing some time in, is up to you.
Okay, so let's flip it then. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I hear from my single guy friends is their concern, especially I got a few friends that live in the Georgia area, that everybody's a pretender, everybody's out to see what you have or what you can do for them.
Yeah.
The women are not, they're out for me. Like, what can you do? What bill can you pay? And their frustration is like, where are the real women?
Mm, mm.
And so my is the same truth, because
Yeah.
if men are more visual, and that
Yes.
and that they're attracted to that visual, but then her mind is crap, or
Yeah.
she's after whatever that she can get, you
Yeah.
know what does that say? Is that a law of attraction issue, or is that a choice in terms of who you decide that you're going to um who
It's
you're going to
both,
spend your time
right?
with?
It can be both, right? You can attract a lot of people, but who is it that you're entertaining? If
Hmm.
you're entertaining only the women who are the most attractive, but all of the women who are the most attractive all are gold diggers, then that's something that you need to pull. You need to say, okay, you know what? Before I entertain you more past date number one or two, I need to figure out where she's at. Does she have her own ambition? Does she have her own mind? What are her passions? What is she like? What's her 5-year plan? If someone can like articulate that, then she's got her head on right. But if she's just like, "Mm, I don't know, sweetie, I don't know. I'm just out here trying to make stuff work. Da, 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 da."
Oh, why you
Okay, then
so
stop.
shady, Julie? That's so
Just saying.
shady.
Just
We
saying.
don't all talk like that.
Just saying. If that's who you're entertaining, then that's what you get. Then that's what you get.
That's true.
Because you decided that, you know what, I'm gonna ignore that because her body's banging. So you have to be
Mhm.
like, do I value her physical attractiveness over the value that she brings to my life? And if you are, then you gotta be okay with that. You gotta be like, okay, I'm out here just having a good time. Done.
Okay. Last one of the last questions. So, and yes, Ron, the words with friends is really the club. Play words with friends with somebody and see, you'll learn a lot about a person, and how they spell.
Right, right,
Can they spell?
right,
Are they putting words together? Or is it like
right,
3-letter words? Are they going for the
right.
triple
That's a
letter
double negative,
score?
sweetie.
Like, ain't
No, we're not
really,
doing
you
that.
can't use ain't. You can't do
Hmm.
that. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to tell you, you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot. But anyway, I digress. But what do you say then? What do you think? And this is because we need to wrap it up, because we'll be up here for 12 hours, sis. But
Oh,
what would you say the biggest complaint that you hear from your male clients about dating? What would you say the biggest complaint is?
oh gosh. The biggest complaint that I get from my male clients is that women want to go way too fast.
Mm-hmm.
They are like, as soon as they find out either what he does or who he knows or what he can provide, they're ready to lock him down. And
Mm.
they're like, you don't even know me like that. Like, you don't really, really know me. You
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen, you weren't with me when I was shooting in the gym. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't there. There is a, men are onions too, right? We like to say that men are very simple, they don't need much, but they're onions too. And I think the more successful, the more financially set that person is, the more they hide who they really are, right? And so I think the complaint that they have is they don't really know me to, if they really knew me, maybe they wouldn't be ready to jump, have my baby or marry me or whatever. It's just like, and it's not self-deprecating, it's more like, are these women really for me, or do
Mm-hmm.
they just want a come up?
Right. And then
So
on the reverse side, what about women? Biggest complaint.
the reverse side is, they can't find men who want to commit.
Oh,
They're ready to sex you down.
friends with benefits. That's
Friends
the
with
thing.
benefits. Or we're just out here having a good time. We are enjoying ourselves. I think they just don't want to. Women feel like they don't want to commit to them exclusively.
And so, but then the issue that women who do want that, and when they put that out there,
Mm-hmm.
either they're going to get, oh, okay, and that's fine, and then the ghosting phenomenon happens. We talked about a lot of that on the show,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
or it becomes something else. Where where it's just a physical connection, and there's no connection beyond that, and then of course it just kind of fizzles out.
Yeah.
What would you say? What advice would you give for better communication? Because obviously, like I said before, we're in this microwave, everybody's texting,
Mhm.
people don't want to talk on the phone, and even when you suggest it, if you're met with resistance with somebody from talking on the phone or wanting to actually see you and have a conversation, I mean, obviously a big red flag. But
Mhm.
just in general, in terms of communication, what advice would you give collectively to men and women in terms of better communication? Because at least in my practice, with my family law practice, that's one of the biggest things, other than finances.
Yeah.
Relationships die because of the lack of meaningful communication. What would you say?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would definitely say communication in a committed relationship slash marriage is way different, and probably a little bit more critical than it is when you're dating. Um, but with that, I'll say the one advice that I would give both is never over invest.
Ooh,
Right? You always want to invest at the same clip
I
as they.
love that. Say it again
Right?
for the people in the back. Say that again for the people in the back.
Never over invest. If they are not communicating like you are like you emailing or you like calling them and you texting them and and they're here, pull it down, okay? Because you never want to invest more than the other person is willing to invest, right? You never want to put all your eggs in a basket that has a hole in it. So
Mm-hmm.
just make sure that whatever they're doing, you're doing. When they fall back, you fall back. And they're like, oh, well, wait a minute. I thought we were supposed to go out. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So we're back here. So you always want to make sure that you are lock in step with the effort and the investment that someone is providing you. And if that's not enough for you, then bounce. There's nothing worse than someone who wants to just keep on going with someone and overcompensating for the other person. Cut that shit.
Girl, you can cuss.
I
Cut that
know.
shit
I got
out.
my kids. I got my
They
kids.
they they didn't hear you. They not gonna see this no way. Girl, go ahead. Cut that shit out. Cut it.
Cut that shit. Cut that shit.
I think that's super, super important, especially now when the
Mm-hmm.
main means of communication is not the face to face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's incredibly important because you can tell if someone's really interested. I mean, how many good morning queen texts can you
Yeah.
do?
Please
I
don't. Please
mean,
stop. Please stop with that.
bruh,
Please
man,
stop.
come on, y'all.
Please stop.
Like, can you at least put another sentence behind it? Good
Yeah.
morning, queen. I
Yeah.
hope you have a wonderful day.
And trust me,
something.
they're sending that to 5 other women.
Right. Right. I mean, come on now. I mean, enough of that, and know what your love language is. I mean, we didn't even get into
Yeah.
that. We got into some of that on the extended version of the show.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's super important. Who wrote, I don't know who wrote that book, Julie.
It was Gary Chapman.
Gary Chapman, Five Love
Mm-hmm.
Languages. For people who don't know, I threw it at you the last time. Five Love
Yes.
Languages,
Thank
which
you.
are
Physical touch, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, and oh, I'm missing the last one.
mine, quality time.
Quality time. That's right. Quality time. And
Quality
everybody
time.
has a mix, right? Everybody has a dominant and, a second one. But for the most part, you have to know two things. You have to know your love language, and you have to know their love language. You can't apply your love language to the other person and expect that to work out, because
Right.
they may not dig quality time. They may be like, yo, give me a gift. I need some gifts. Okay? I don't want to Netflix and chill. I want a card.
Damn gold digger.
But
But
let
like
me
I said though, but you gotta know.
you
But if
have
the
to know.
person doesn't know, like there's online quizzes. Like if they've never heard of it,
Yeah,
take
yeah,
a
yeah.
quiz. Hell,
Yeah.
that's an activity. Take a quiz
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
make
yeah.
that part of the conversation. Cause like I said, when you and I were talking, words of affirmation people drive me crazy.
I
I
know.
mean, I try.
Yolanda, you're doing a great job, girl.
Oh my
Yes,
God.
queen. Yes, sis. You better do that, girl.
You
You
better get out
like,
there and slay dragons and give justice for everybody, not guilties all day long, because I believe in you.
but you
Dang,
know
man.
what? This is why that this is so important. When you observe someone, you can already guess their quality, their love language. I know with Yolanda, I knew that quality time was your thing, because just knowing you, you are always going out with your friends. You're spending you'll do trips with them. You do a lot of one-on-one friendship things, right? So
Right.
I can tell that quality time means a lot to you because you spend time with your people. If someone is really observant of you, and you're really observant of your partner, you will see what makes them shine, like what really brings them joy. If it's, try all the love languages. When you're first figuring this out, you want to surprise them, try all of it. See which one resonates with them the most. If you don't want to ask them, just say, let me try a couple things out. Women don't all like gifts. Women don't all like quality time. Some women love physical touch. Some women just want you to just get it in. Let's go. Let's do it. Right? Just saying.
Whew,
Just
child,
saying.
this conversation about to go real left.
I know. I know. To the left.
Child, but you're right. And I think if you can ask straight up, great. If you can't, then observe. If you get to that point, if you get past that first 2 to 3 days, because everybody can have a conversation a few times for the most part. But it's when you get to, real experiences and, talk about things that person that are important to that person. I think that's when you really get to see, whether or not they are sincere in their interest or not. But I do think for women, for most of us that are single, like the thing that we still struggle with is men who don't have zero interest in committing, but they won't tell you that. Like, even if you ask that, they're not necessarily going to be honest with you.
Do we got time for that? Do we have time to get into
yeah, we
that?
girl, yeah, child, we got time. Let's talk.
All right.
Okay, go.
So, a couple things. Men will not commit until they are ready to commit.
Right.
And for men, they have the luxury of saying, yep, I'm ready. Let me just see who the next person in line is, and I'm committing to you. There are some men where they have been in a relationship with a woman for years. They break up and he marries the next woman like 6 months later. Sometimes it really is just timing for them. And I think women, they're just like, oh, he's playing around. Oh, he's not serious. Oh, it's me, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it really is just timing. When they decide that they are ready to move forward, stuff happens. right?
Mhm.
That's not to say that you have to wait around until your man is ready. Sometimes it really is you ain't it.
Mhm.
So you got to decide, or you have to communicate with your partner to say which one is this? Is this timing, meaning you aren't prepared to commit to me or prepared to marry me? Because there's a lot that goes along with that, proposal for men, right?
Mhm.
There's a responsibility that women aren't really seeing when it comes to men proposing, because they're just like, okay, this I am deciding to put this woman on my back,
Mhm.
put this woman in my I'm saying to the world that I am protecting this woman. So they sometimes they're just like, I'm not ready for that, I'm not ready to have that responsibility.
Right.
But then other times it's just like, yeah, it's just not you, but I'm afraid of telling you that.
Mhm.
I don't want to hurt your feelings, I don't want conflict, I'm too scared to tell you the truth, so I'm not going to give you what you want because I want you to figure it out. I want you to listen to what my actions are, and you say, okay, you know what? Let's just break up because it looks like you don't want to commit. Okay, cool. Because he never wanted
Mhm.
to hurt your feelings. He never wanted to tell you the two things. Either way, you need to have that conversation to figure out which way is it? Is it that it's me, or you just aren't ready?
Right. And so that again, of course, goes back to, the ability to communicate freely and honestly, because, the
Mm-hmm.
ghosting phenomenon is hurtful for both men and women. Like, if you just weren't interested,
Yeah.
don't just say you're not interested. But I've had that, but sometimes when you're honest, people just flip. Like I've said, it's not, I
Mm-hmm.
just don't think we'd be a good match, or fuck
Yeah.
you. Oop, I probably should. Well, anyway, too late said it. But it's just this really angry response, and it was,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it happens on both sides, but that speaks to that person's maturity, and I dodged the bullet
Right.
on that anyway. So you look at it that
Right.
way. So what
Right.
are the takeaways? What would you say? So Roderick is saying that y'all have men theories, but only a man can tell you. A lot of times, women can't take the truth. What do you think?
I mean, he's right.
Yeah,
He's right. There are women who
nobody's
can't.
disputing that.
I mean, you're right, Roderick. I mean, some women can't take the truth, but that doesn't mean you can't provide it, because it's
Right.
not about what she could like. I think a lot of men are just like, oh, she can't handle it. Oh, when I tried to tell her the truth, she flipped out. That should not be a barrier to you telling the truth and speaking your truth.
Right.
If you don't want to be with her, or something is missing, or there's trouble in paradise, it is still your responsibility to tell her the truth, because why would you want to be in a relationship like that, where you cannot tell your partner the truth, where you cannot be in a relationship where the truth is freely given? Now,
Right.
mind you, there's tact, there's a certain way of doing it, there's a certain way of telling the truth, don't get me wrong. But if you're so afraid of telling the truth, are you really with the right person at the right time? Is this really a relationship you need to be in right now, where you can't even tell the truth?
Which still may come back to the timing issue. Now, for you and your husband you guys got married, not, well, you met in college. What,
Yeah.
your first freshman year in college, and
My
then married in
second
your sophomore
day,
year?
my
Second day, that's
second
right.
day
Second
on
day of
college
college.
campus, I met my husband. Now, I didn't know he was my husband at the time, but I did meet him my second night there.
And then you all got married in your 20s, like later 20s,
Yeah,
25, 20.
I was 26, he was
Mm-hmm.
28. Mhm.
Okay. 2 kids now.
2 kids, yep.
That's it. There's not gonna be Eli Simone. No, okay, gotcha.
Shop is
We talked
closed.
about that on the show. Y'all have to
Shop
you have
is
to check.
closed.
You'll have to check
Mhm.
into the Full Length Show to get
Nah,
the
nah,
to
nah.
get the scoop on that. But any
Yeah.
other things that you can say or that you can suggest? And I think the guys are asking, or at least Roderick is asking, in terms of why there's not a man on the show. Look, we will be here 12 hours. But that's a great idea about bringing Julie, if you don't mind coming back in a
Yeah.
few weeks. Because I was looking for someone, and I think Todd Malloy really addressed some really interesting issues from a male's perspective. But we were talking about healthy sexuality, and he was talking about it from the perspective of a sex therapist. But
Mhm.
I really would like to have somebody else on the show to talk about this particular situation with love
Yeah.
and dating.
Mhm.
Do you find any male matchmakers out there, or is it mostly women?
Um, there are, to my knowledge, there are no Black matchmakers. There are quite a few white, Jewish, Hispanic matchmakers out there, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't really focus on our community.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
So what are the takeaways? So obviously, if you're gonna get on the site, you get what you come for. I mean, it is what it is. It's volume,
Yeah, so
really.
can we talk about that? Yeah, can we talk about that? So I think that when you go on a site, I think people just throw shit up there. Like they're just like, okay, they don't put any type of effort outside of their picture. They don't really put any effort in their profile. They're just like, oh, I like long walks on the beach and I love to travel and blah, blah, blah. Listen, people really want to know outside of the picture, what is your story?
Right.
Like, why are you here? What are you looking for? And could I see myself through your words? Right? When you put effort into telling that story and really being direct as to what you're looking for and the type of relationship that works for you, and then having a call to action. You
Oh,
can't
I
just put
like
it
that.
out there.
I
Have
like
a
that.
call to action and make it so that the call to action is very specific. So when you get an inbox and they answered your call to action in the specific way, you know they were paying attention to your profile. If they didn't, you can be like, you weren't even paying attention. You was either just looking at the picture or you was just throwing something out there. You can dismiss that. But if somebody really took the time to read your story and to read the call to action and then answer the call to action, you know you got someone who's at least willing to invest just a little bit more than the rest.
Examples of a call to action.
Okay, so you just spent this whole time saying that you love, cartoons. You
Mhm.
love 90s shows like Martin, um, you know, um, A Different World, Cosby Show, blah, blah, blah. You can just say, what was your favorite episode of Martin? Like that was my, just like tell me if you're interested, if something about this profile resonates with you, tell me your favorite episode of Martin. If they answer,
Ooh,
not only do you have someone who paid attention, you have a
I
conversation
like
starter.
that.
You
I
already
like.
started up the conversation. Y'all don't talk about, hey, hi, what you doing? No, you talking about your favorite episode of
Girl, get out
Martin.
my inbox.
So then it's like, not only do you have someone that's like, yo, I'm having a good time talking about my favorite episode. It
Hmm.
leads to other things. Like, okay, what was your other favorite show? What was the best part about the 90s that you loved? Da, da, da. Just so many things that you can talk about when you have a call to action rather than, hey, hi, how you doing? What's good?
That's a
So
great idea.
that's
So,
what it is.
activities,
Activities,
have
yes.
a decent profile, say
Uh-huh.
something.
Yeah,
Don't
say
just have
something. Yeah.
pictures and
Yeah.
think about what it is that, like you said, in the law of attraction, if you got a bunch of, if you a sister or woman and you got your booty hanging out, you can't be mad if you
That's what
getting,
you're gonna get.
that dude.
Yeah.
So, think about what you're saying, but great, great, great suggestion once this is over to do more
Mhm.
activity based things than the typical meet and greet or have a drink or whatever, which can have its purpose, but something that focuses on an activity. And especially in this day and age, something virtual that,
Yeah.
a game that you all can play together. I'm sure will for
Yes.
somebody scrap. Well, I still say
Yeah.
words with friends. I just think that's gonna be the plug because you're gonna learn what you need to know.
It's a
Like
lot of things you're gonna learn
you're
there,
gonna
but
learn a lot. And
and what's
especially
great, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say what's great about that is once this is all over, when you do go out and meet that person, you already have something to talk about.
Right.
That's the great thing about having activity first, because you have the activity and then you talk about the activity rather than, oh, what do you do? Where you're from? Da, 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 like all those dumb questions that people don't really get anything out of. Like, talk about your experience and keep developing that, that experience that you guys have with each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So how can people reach you?
Okay, so you can go to my website, elisimone.com. If you're interested in, learning more about this business, learning more about the service, you can certainly go and see what I have to offer, and then, contact me. There's like a little, tab down there to contact me if you want a consultation or talk more about my services. But I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. Julie O. Wadley on Instagram, and
Mm-hmm.
Eli Simone LLC on Facebook. Or, you can just reach out to Yolanda, like, yo, I want to talk to Julie real quick.
And I'll just slip that on through. Girl, thank you so much. We got
You're
to do this again. We got to find somebody. I would love to have a male perspective,
welcome.
and then and deal with a different issue, because I don't want to, do the same
Yeah,
issue.
yeah.
And so if you can think of somebody in the field that can really talk about it from a
Oh
relationship
gosh.
standpoint, not just a male's perspective, but somebody who is a matchmaker, like a legit matchmaker, and can talk about it from a relationship perspective. We can talk offline and
Yeah,
figure out
yeah.
who that person may be.
Okay.
Of course, for those of you watching, definitely tune into the full episode, which will air next Wednesday
Mhm.
at 8 o'clock. And in the full episode on the conversation, we always talk about our guests. We talk about our guests and get to learn more about our guests through pictures and other things before we get into the heart of the show. So while we focused on dating in the digital age here, that show actually goes into some more issues. We didn't get into some of the issues of interracial dating. We started on that, but we were running on 2 hours. So
Yeah,
the edit job was a trip to try to get it
I'm
down. But it
sure
was
we talking a lot.
right. And so I think we'll definitely have to have a second episode. But if you have questions, I'm sure Julie will also be taking a look at the comments after the show. Of course, the show will be here and on the conversation page. And of course, if you haven't already done so, follow, like, subscribe at all things at the Combo Pod Show. Literally, if you Google the Combo Pod Show, everything comes up, from the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, and of course the YouTube. The YouTube.
The
And
YouTube.
I meant that. The YouTube.
The
The
YouTube.
YouTube. So definitely tune in next Wednesday at 8 for the full episode. You are going to absolutely love it. Reach out to Julie either through Instagram or here if you have questions, or if you're interested in her matchmaking services or the life coaching. And of course, tune into the podcast, which airs when? When does the
Usually
podcast air?
Mondays. It's been quiet since the corona hit, but Mondays is usually when I post new episodes.
Outstanding. And so where do we find you? Do we find you on YouTube, or what's your platform?
So my podcast is on SoundCloud, so you
Mm-hmm,
can go to While We Wait podcast
mm-hmm.
if you want to check out those episodes.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you, sis.
You're welcome. I had so much fun.
Oh, likewise, likewise. Thanks for the rest of you all that have tuned in. Obviously, reach out offline if you choose to do so, particularly if you have any questions. But we will definitely do this again, and we will absolutely add a male's perspective. Next week's show is we're taking a different track. So the first mini show was about healthy sexual relationships with Todd Malloy. The second one was pretty much how are you doing really. That was with Dr. Kendall Jasper. This is our third mini combo. Next week's mini combo will be next week, and we're talking sociopolitics,
Ooh.
which is going to be very interesting. So not just typical politics, what's going on at 1600 Pennsylvania, but sociopolitics. Guest will be Brandon Risher. We probably going to start fighting on the show because we definitely have some different views. That might be bring a glass of wine, because it's just an interesting perspective. But that's the whole point of having the conversation. We can't all think the same way. We can't
Right,
all
right.
feel the same way, because we don't learn, we don't grow if we don't talk about different views. So we will see you guys next week. Make sure you tune in. Thank you, girl. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, go ahead and download Words with Friends. You're going to thank me when you find out whether or not that person can spell.
You know what? I'm actually, because my clients keep asking me, "What can I do now?" I'm like, I don't know. I
Words with
don't. I don't
Friends.
go online, but Words of Friends. I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Right.
And
Trust.
thanks, Ron. I'm gonna have to look at the comments. I didn't get to take a look at the comments, but I'll do that.
All right, sis. We'll talk soon,
All
as
right.
always, and we'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a
All
good
right.
night. All right.
Bye.
Bye.